Do you want to know why some business owners can hit a golf course on a Tuesday while you're having a hard time getting home in time for dinner on a Friday? Well, it's because they've got 3 elements of their business on point that you don't. So in this video, I'm going to show you the business structure, the team, and the systems you need to build a business that doesn't need you to run and make money. It's the exact system my clients at 20-Hour Founder and I use to run our 7-figure businesses in under 20 hours a week. And it starts with something simple. I want you to draw an org chart and list all the main functions of your business. Because here's where most founders get stuck. They've got too many people that are involved in too many things. So let's say you're involved in sales, delivery, and admin. Or you've got someone who owns sales and marketing, which means the whole revenue stream depends on them. The thing with businesses built like this is that they can work until something happens, because then they're in really big trouble. Because what happens when you get sick? Or when your key person takes a vacation for a week or 2 or longer. I mean, if you're a sales and delivery person, sales stops and nobody's taking care of your clients. And if your sales and marketing person goes on vacation and the ads get paused or whatever, leads stop coming in, follow-up stop, and then when they return from their vacations, you have to restart basically from zero, plus you lose another week trying to rebuild everything that was lost. That's why your business needs 4 separate owners for the 4 key domains of your business. So the first one is that you need someone to own marketing and who's responsible for bringing leads through ads, content, case studies, interviews, partnerships, whatever your channels are. Then you need someone to own sales to convert those leads into paying clients. And then next comes delivery or fulfillment to take care of the things your clients actually paid for. And the last one is operations and admin, to handle invoicing, payroll support, and all the other stuff. Because when those 4 functions are clearly owned by different people, one person being out doesn't break the whole machine. And if your goal is to build a business that can run without you being involved in every step, let me show you how to set up those department owners in a way that actually works. Most founders I talk to are responsible for either sales or delivery, and sometimes even for both. And if that's you probably think that's a good thing. You feel like your involvement is making the business grow because you bring in money, and it makes you feel like you've got everything under control because you're in direct contact with your clients or your customers. But in reality, it's actually a problem. Let me explain. For years in my business, I handled about 90% of sales, and honestly, I loved it. I was talking to clients, I was on the road, I was bringing revenue, and honestly, it felt like I had a pretty great job. But do you know what didn't feel great? Being stressed on vacation because I had no Wi-Fi. Or when I had to send some quick emails in the morning while my wife and kids were having breakfast together. If you're anything like me, you know the feeling that you have always to be available for clients even when you're at home or on vacation. And that's especially true when you're involved in sales or delivery, because it's tied to revenue and you'd rather work a little on vacation than risk losing money. I used to say that I didn't mind, but to be honest, being on vacation and getting updates from the team saying they signed a new client or that they closed a new deal without you is a whole other level of enjoyment. I don't think I have to convince you that getting CC'd on an invoice being sent while you're on the beach is pretty damn great. And I'm using sales as the example, but it's the same with delivery or every other client-facing role. If your business needs you to move forward or to bring in money, it will always slow down or stall when you're not there. And that's the last thing you want if you want to build a business that you can one day sell or step away from for longer than a weekend without being stressed. What we're going to do next is that we're going to remove you from every role of your business except being the CEO. And yes, that also includes sales. I can already hear you. Yeah, but Quentin, I'm the founder, I should do sales, it's what I'm best at. And you know, that might be true. You might be good at it, you might even be great at it. And I'm not saying you cannot do any sales at all anymore. I'm saying the business can't depend on the revenue you bring in. And then the revenue you then eventually generate, if you don't own sales, can go to savings account, you can go to your dividends or some kind of business expense you can use to treat yourself. I think we both know what we're talking about here. So I'm going to show you how to get out of sales without your revenue going to shit. Most founders are trapped inside their businesses for one simple reason. They built it to run around them, but they didn't build it to run without them. And if you're anything like I was, you are the business at this point. The only difference between now and when you were all alone is that right now you've got some little helpers around you. And I don't mean no disrespect to anyone. It's just a reality in most founder-led companies. You make all the decisions, you're the only one who knows the plans, and processes basically just live in your head. So of course everything revolves around you. The good news is that to fix that, you only need two things. The first thing you need are the right people who can take care of real work stuff, so you're no longer doing everything. And the second is that you need clear processes and systems so those people can make good decisions and execute without coming back to you with every same question every day. So next we're going to build a team that can cut your working hours in half without you stressing about what's going to happen if you're not there. Oh, by the way, this can seem like a lot of work and it can be overwhelming. That's okay. If you want help building your business like this, that's exactly what we do at 20 Hour Founder. We help 6- and 7-figure founders build businesses they can run in 20 hours a week without cutting profit. If you want to see what that looks like for your company, click the link below. So that being said, let's talk about building that great team of yours. When you're building a team, you don't want to hire for the wrong reasons, like I'm overworked or someone just left so I need to replace them ASAP. When I build a team, whether it's for my own businesses or for a client, I start by listing the breaking points. So let's look at what's actually cracking and where the business is at risk of getting stuck. For example, I often hear clients complain that sales are slow. Let's look at that in this example. There are usually two core causes. The first one is a sales skill gap, and usually that looks like your salesperson isn't converting enough prospects into lead, or you if you're the salesperson. And the second is either a marketing skill gap or a lead quality gap. That's when sales is getting weak leads or not enough leads, and because of that, sales struggle. And yeah, I know sometimes it's an offer issue, but in my experience, a strong sales team paired with good marketing can still sell an okay offer. So don't jump to conclusions and try to fix your offer. Because also, if your offer isn't that compelling, your sales and marketing team will improve it fast by collecting real customer feedback anyway. So the question you want to ask yourself right now is, what's the constraint or the bottleneck holding me back? And in case you're not clear on the terms, your constraint is the thing limiting growth, and your bottleneck is the point where work piles up and everything slows down. And that's what you want to hire to solve. In our example, your constraints are leads. You don't get enough of them, so you're not selling enough. Your bottleneck is sales because your sales team lacks the skills to handle the leads and convert them. So next, let's look at who you actually need to hire to build a team that runs without you. A lot of founders I work with hire the wrong way. They either try to hire a unicorn that doesn't exist for the price of a second-hand pony most of the time, or they hire reactively because something breaks or someone leaves and they start to panic, so they rush hiring because they think it will fix the problem. And to be honest, I did this myself too. For years I thought that I needed a team manager or a chief of staff, someone to handle the team so I can focus on strategy. But for me, that was the wrong hire. The truth is that I didn't want to train people and I didn't want to manage them. So I tried to outsource the thing I didn't like so I could just avoid doing it. And I can tell you how many business owners I've spoken to over the years whose business was stalling because they owned things they were avoiding to do so they wouldn't get done. And at the moment I'm working with a client who runs an IT consulting firm. He's really missing clients and he's the one responsible for doing sales. But he doesn't like doing sales, so he does everything so he can avoid doing sales. But as a result, his business isn't growing because there are no new customers coming in. So right now, we're in the process of hiring him a business developer. Because what you want to do is you want to hire to remove constraints so you stop limiting your own growth. So if you want to hire to remove yourself from daily ops, ask yourself these 3 questions. What revenue generating activities are you still doing? What's eating most of your time each week? And what are you doing that you're simply not good at? And those 3, in that order, are usually what you need to hire for if you want your business to run without you. Because when you stop being the person responsible for bringing in money, your business makes money without you, and that means it gets to survive without you. Your time back, you get freedom back to either take time off or to work on more important things like strategy or perfecting your offer so you can sell a better or more expensive thing, or ideally both. Because there are many ways for you as a founder to make money, but plus $500,000 selling isn't one of them anymore. Also, when you hire to stop doing the things you hate or you're bad at, you're building a business you enjoy more. And if you're not sure who to hire next, click the link in the description and we'll talk about it. But now there's one critical mistake business owners make that kills them stuck and kills freedom. Have you ever hired someone and then 2 weeks later you thought, who on earth did I just let into my company? If your answer is no, you're either new to hiring people or you're a lucky bastard. Anyway, a couple years ago, I overheard a new employee. He was on the phone with a prospect. They were trying to book a meeting, but the prospect was clearly uninterested. And my employee starts saying things like, yeah, but we're really nice people and I promise that I really do my best if we work together. And I remember standing there half embarrassed because it sounded so unprofessional, and I was also half sad for that person at the same time because I could tell he was really trying, but that person just didn't know how to or what to say at that time. And if you've ever experienced something like that, here's the truth. You don't have a hiring problem. You have a training problem. People can only perform at the level they've been trained to perform. And no system, AI tool, productivity hack, or whatever will compensate for a lack of skill and bad training. So here's what you're going to do instead to make sure people on your team can do the job you've hired them to do. And the first step is that you're going to show them what doing the work the right way looks like. So you or someone else on your team who's highly capable does the job while they watch. And then step 2 is that you switch roles. So now your new hire is doing the thing and you or your team lead or whoever coaches them in real time. So you tell them what they did right and you correct them on what they should do differently. And then step 3 is that you use the 75% rule. The 75% rule means that if someone can do the job 75% as well as you or handle it on their own for 75% of the time, you let them do it. Because the last 25% they're missing comes from experience. You can train people all you want, but the best training is still real life experience. And yes, they'll probably make mistakes, and that's fine. I made a ton of mistakes and it got me where I'm at today. And the same thing goes for your employees. Now, there's one more step before we talk about systems that create real autonomy. And please pay attention to this next part because it's what decides whether your business can actually run without you or not. The number 1 thing my clients complain about is I can't find good people. The number 2 thing is my employees don't do what I ask them or what they're supposed to do. But most of the time, the second problem isn't a people problem. It's a delegation problem. And most business owners suck at delegating work properly. A couple of years ago, I asked my PA to get us new interns. And I said, can you post ads for interns in sales, marketing, and HR? And she said yes. A few weeks later, I still hadn't seen a single application. So I asked her, hey, why aren't the schools sending us any interns? And she looks at me and she goes like, schools? What do you mean, schools? Well, it turns out that she had posted the internship ads on regular job boards. But what I meant when I gave her the instructions was contact the schools and post in their internship portals, the one we already have access to, but she didn't know that those existed because I didn't tell her. She didn't do what I wanted, not because she was incompetent, but because my instructions were not clear to her. They were to me, but they were not to her. And if you want to delegate properly, use this simple framework. First, you give them clear instructions. You tell them what you want, how you want it done, and by when it has to be done. So, for example, I should have said, can you get this intern for sales, marketing, and HR by contacting the schools and posting on their internship platforms? And I'd like you to bring me at least 2 strong candidates by the end of the week or by the next 2 weeks, I don't care. And then you move on to step 2, which is have them repeat it back. Because after you've given them the instructions, just say, hey, cool, just to make sure I didn't miss anything, can you tell me what you're going to do? And if they understand, you'll notice and you'll correct it until they say it right. Really, this is the biggest hack I can give you when it comes to preventing mistakes. Tell them what to do, let them repeat it back, and correct them. To make sure they don't mess up somewhere along the way, do this. You set in a check-in at 25 to 50% of the deadline. Don't wait until the end. Check in at the beginning or at the middle of the task or of the deadline. Because that way, if they're stuck or if they're doing things wrong, there's still time to, course correct. That's how you get people to actually do what you asked without you micromanaging them. Just a simple, how is it going? Can you show me what you've done so far? Is more than enough. So now we've identified how you should build your business and who should own what role. Then we've seen how you hire, how you train, and how you delegate. So next, let's talk about the systems you need so the work gets done correctly and consistently without you babysitting your team. Creating systems is simple, and that's exactly why most founders mess it up. Now, instead of building simple, repeatable systems, they turn them into those over-engineered, complex things that nobody knows how to use. And then employees feel overwhelmed and confused, and then they don't use any of those things you've made. And it's not because they're lazy, it's because the system is too complicated for them to follow. It's like handing someone a cookbook for professional chefs. Would you rather read Julienne the onion and cook until translucent, or slice the onion into thin strips and cook on low heat for 2 minutes? Because unless you're into cooking, you have no idea what Julienne even means. You probably didn't think it's a name. At least I did. And that's exactly what your SOPs sound like when you write them in jargon or without adding enough context. The simpler your instructions and playbooks and SOPs are, the more likely your team will actually follow them and because of that get a result you want. So now let's break down the 3 things you need to build systems so your team can run without you. Please understand that if everything lives inside your head, you'll always be needed. When I first started working less, I delegated almost everything. But then I started getting non-stop calls and texts from my team. Technically, I was working fewer hours, but it felt like the business needed me more than ever, which was a really strange feeling. And that's when I realized that I successfully delegated tasks, but I didn't give enough context, which means my team couldn't own it for 100%. So here's what I did. I documented the whole process. I made step-by-step guides for everything in writing, and whenever it made sense, I also turned it into a simple visual flowchart so people could troubleshoot where they were stuck or what they had to do next. Now, here's what I want you to do. Go back to your org chart and then for every function in a business, write down what each role is responsible for, what the key tasks are, and what the process looks like from start to finish. So, for example, for sales, it might look like find prospects, call them, book a meeting, run the sales call, send a proposal, follow up, and then close. And then you repeat that for marketing, delivery, and operations. And don't try to do this all alone. I mean, you've got a team, so use them. Chances are they also know things that you don't, or at least they do things that you're unaware of. I mean, if you never ran your own ads yourself, don't pretend you can document marketing, for example. So instead, what you want to do is you want to show your marketer what you did for sales, and then you want them to do the same thing for their function. Because this process does one big thing. It pulls knowledge out of people's heads and puts it somewhere the company can actually use. If someone leaves or gets sick or whatever happens, their knowledge doesn't disappear with them. And then when you hire someone new, they already have all the info about their role stored somewhere, and this will also help you train them and onboard them better. So that being said, we're going to use this documentation to build two of the most important assets in your business. You know the feeling when someone asks you a question and you get annoyed because you've answered that same thing 100 times? Good, let's make sure that never happens again. A couple of months ago, I hired a marketer. I trained her for 2 days, and then I worked side by side with her for 3 more days. And by the end of week 2, she owned 90% of my marketing. And by month 2, she took my ROAS from 14-1 to 17-1. That result didn't happen because I got lucky or because I hired someone with crazy experience. In fact, working for me is her first job. She came fresh out of university. It happened because of one thing I made. It was my marketing playbook. And if you don't know what a playbook is a documented guide that shows someone exactly how to do their job. It's kind of like a cookbook, a recipe book, but then for working in your business. And one of the playbooks she got was my meta ads playbook, and it covered how we build ads, which softwares you use, which GPTs she can use, the prompts that are included, and the weekly cadence, so she knows what meetings she has to be in, what her role in those meetings are, and what she has to deliver at the end of the week. If you want to build a playbook that works, here are 2 rules of thumb. If an employee asks you a question more than once, it belongs to the playbook. That's the first rule. The second one is that if you got a hit in the head tomorrow and you lost your memory, you should be able to onboard a rookie using the playbook alone. So that's the level of quality you're aiming for. If you build great playbooks and delegate properly, you don't just hand work off. You get it off your plate for good. The second thing you're going to do with your documented processes is build SOPs. Now I know that a lot of people confuse SOPs, standard operating procedures, with playbooks, and that they use the term interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. Think of it like this. If a playbook is the cookbook or the recipe book, an SOP is the step-by-step instructions for one of the specific recipes inside that book. For example, my playbook tells my marketer how to do her job overall, so it got the tools, the meetings, the deadlines, and how her whole week looks and so on. And then the SOPs live inside that playbook. So an SOP is a specific process broken into exact steps with no room for interpretation. So in her meta ads playbook, she has an SOP for launching an ad campaign. It looks something like step 1, you open the ads manager, step 2, you create a new campaign, step 3, you choose the correct objective or category, step 4, you use it, you name it using our naming convention so we can track it easier later and later, and so on and so forth. So the playbook is the operating manual, the SOP is the checklist inside it. Now, just with playbooks, 2 rules of thumb here for SOPs. If a task has a right way and a wrong way to do it, you write an SOP about it. And if doing it wrong costs you time, money, or a client, you definitely need to make an SOP about it. Quick recap so we're clear. The playbook tells your people what the job is and how it should be done the right way. The SOP makes sure they can't mess up by showing them what to do step by step. And that's the foundation of how you build a business that can run without you. And this is exactly what we help our clients do at 20-Hour Founder. If you want help building a business that doesn't require you in every task, every decision, well, I'm happy to jump on a call with you and point you in the right direction. If I can help, I'll tell you. If I can't, I'll do that too. Spots are limited, so if you click and see a wait list, hop on it and you'll be notified when new consultants come up. And just to be clear, I'm not pitching you some random course. Matter of fact, I don't even have a course to sell you at all. And if you're good for now, but you want to go deeper, watch this video where I break down how I run my 7-figure business in 2 to 3 hours a day. I'll see you there.